So your nervous system is your master controlling system of the body. So other systems get information from the nervous system. There's another controlling system. It's called the endocrine system, but it doesn't work the same way. The nervous system uses very fast and specific messages to go from one part of the body to another part of the body through electrical signals, chemical signals. Just think about a wire in the wall. When you flip the light switch, that electrical current goes from that switch to the bulb really fast, direct, hardwired. That's your nervous system. Endocrine system's a little different, which you'll do in A&P Part 2. It's like a signal being broadcast throughout the body, takes longer. It's not a direct route, but this is your master controlling system. Every cell, tissue, organ in your body is controlled by the nervous system via these electrical signals. All right, the nervous system has divisions, and these divisions have subdivisions. So these next few slides are going to end up in a flow chart we'll see in about 5 or 10 minutes from now. But we're going to start with the basic divisions of the nervous system, or I even should say the primary divisions of the nervous system, the central and the peripheral nervous system. And real simply, what the central nervous system is, what it consists of, is the brain and the spinal cord. All right, just think right down the center. Brain, spinal cord is your CNS, or central nervous system. We're going to break that down in other chapters. There's also the peripheral nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system, you can see all these nerves going in and out of the spinal cord. They also go in and out of the brain and brainstem here as well. You don't really see it there though. But we call these things nerves, and that's what the peripheral nervous system, or PNS, consists of, are your nerves. Whether they're spinal nerves, whether we see here, these cords going in and out of the spinal cord, or cranial nerves, which we really don't see pictured here, but there's also nerves entering and leaving the brain. So if you see this term nerves, well, we know it's peripheral nervous system because, well, we don't call those things nerves in the central nervous system. So CNS, brain, spinal cord; PNS, spinal nerves and cranial nerves. So at the cellular level, if we look at the histology of the nervous system, there are two types of cells, or we could say principal types of cells. Neuroglia, also called glial cells. Glial means glue, so you can think of it as glue cells or nerve glue, neuroglia. These are 6 different types of cells, which we're going to go through later, that support the main cells of the nervous system. So these neuroglia cells do not conduct action potentials, or they don't conduct electrical impulses. They don't convey the information, but they're there to support the ones that do, which are the neurons, which we'll get to in a second. So yeah, neuroglia are the support cells, the glue of the nervous system. They don't pass information along, but they're there to support the cells that do, which are the neurons. So your neurons are your primary cells. Neurons are nerve cells, just like muscle fibers are muscle cells. Your neurons are special, just like muscle fibers, because they're excitable. They can transmit electrical signals, and that's how information gets passed throughout the body, through these electrical signals. So your neurons are your cells of the nervous system then that can conduct these electrical signals or information, where the neuroglia are the support cells of the nervous system. They support the neurons. They do everything but transmit information. So we're going to start with the neuron and go through all the properties of a neuron in the next few slides. All right, so you have 2 neurons pictured here, and we can see they kind of look like a regular cell. You see the nucleus, you see all the organelles in there, the mitochondria, the ER, and all those organelles we went through in chapter 3 a long time ago. But looking closer at a neuron, we can see they have all these extensions, right? So at one end of a neuron, we have all these branch-like extensions, where at the other end, we have this long wire coming out of it. Right, you see the same thing here on this neuron as well. Well, all of these extensions and wires coming out of what we call the cell body. The cell body is what looks like the normal cell here in the center. All these extensions coming in and out of the cell body are called processes. So a neuron has tons of processes, but we can get more specific. It has axons and dendrites. So your dendrites are all these little branches, all these little finger-like extensions, and what they're doing, they're receiving some information, and they're carrying that information into the cell body, right, in this direction. Where the axon is that one thick, long wire coming out of the cell body, and it's relaying information away from the cell body towards the next neuron. So here's the dendrites receiving information, right, and traveling down the axon that way. So if you look at this axon or this axon, you can see there's these wrappings around it, like these little cushions or these little layers of wrapping around the axon. That's called myelin, which we'll get to in a little bit. Myelin is like insulation. It's white, although it's showing a little blue here, or else it'd be lost in the background. So axons that have myelin on it are called white matter, just because of the color. And what we don't see here, if there was no myelin on this axon, it would look gray, even though they use yellow. But it would look gray, so that's what we refer to as gray matter. So gray matter and white matter depends on if there's myelin in white matter or if it's unmyelinated, no myelin, which is gray matter. So if you hear those terms, white matter, gray matter, that just refers to whether there's myelin on the axons or not. And myelin is going to have an important role, which we'll see in a little later on in this chapter. All right, I wanted to clear something up here because we're throwing a lot of words around now, and we're going to be throughout the chapter, so I just want to make sure we're clear. What's the difference when we say a nerve or neuron? Well, we learned that a neuron is a nerve cell, right, which can conduct electrical impulses. So what's a nerve? We saw, I think, on one of the first slides that the peripheral nervous system is made up of nerves, spinal nerves, cranial nerves. So what's the difference between a neuron and a nerve? Well, this picture kind of shows it here. So if we look down at this bottom picture, we can see how many neurons are there, how many nerve cells, which we call neurons, are there. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're all kind of lined together. There's the cell bodies. You can see the dendrites, right? There's the axons. The end of an axon is called axon terminals, which we see here. But what you're looking at here, this entire picture, is a nerve. So what a nerve is a whole bundle of neurons, right? Remember, neurons are cells. They're microscopic. We can't see them. They're going to be really long, right? They can be a few feet long in our body, but this axon is microscopic because it's so skinny, and these cell bodies are microscopic. But what if we put, well, it's showing 5 here, but what if we put, more realistically, 500 or 5,000 of these together? Now you can actually see this cord, which is going to be white or gray depending on whether it's myelinated, which are the axons. So a nerve is a nerve cell. Sorry, I should say that again. A neuron is a nerve cell, where a nerve is a whole bundle of neurons, hundreds or thousands of them, which is visible. So on one of those first slides, when we looked at the peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves and spinal nerves, we see these yellow cords in that picture. Well, those are nerves, right? But realize those nerves are made up of thousands and thousands of neurons all lined up together. So now that we know that, we can add this other terminology here. By the way, if you printed the PowerPoint before the voiceover, the order is a little bit different, and I moved some pictures around. But all the information's the same. So let's go through this terminology or not. We have a nucleus and a ganglion, a tract and a nerve. When we use these terms depends on whether we're in the CNS, the central nervous system, or the PNS, the peripheral nervous system. So let's kind of let's look at these last two first. So a nerve is a bundle of axons or fibers. We call axons fibers sometimes. So it's a bundle of axons or fibers in the peripheral nervous system. So as I explained on the previous slide, yeah, we learned what a nerve is. It's a whole bundle of neurons, but that's only in the peripheral nervous system. So think back to when we looked at the peripheral nervous system on one of the first slides, we said it's spinal nerves and cranial nerves. So we only use the term nerve in the peripheral nervous system. So look at the nerves coming from the eyes, right? So there's one eyeball, there's another eyeball. You have an optic nerve that leaves each eye going towards the brain. So what happens when we enter the brain? They kind of cross here, but that's fine. We can't, now we're inside the brain, we can't call them nerves anymore. Do you see what they call it? The optic nerve, in this example, becomes the optic tract. So a tract is a bundle of axons, which are part of neurons or fibers in the central nervous system, right, in the CNS. So nerves and tracts are really the same thing, but their location matters, right? So when we're in the peripheral nervous system, right, that would be a nerve. When we enter the central nervous system, which is your brain or spinal cord, it becomes a tract. So two very important terms here, just location is the key in whether we use the term nerve or tract. All right, and then these other two terms, we have nucleus versus ganglion. Well, we saw in the previous slide that when we line up all those neurons together in a nerve, well, where the cell bodies are located is going to be much thicker because cell bodies are thicker than axons. So a nerve will have a bump right where all the cell bodies are located. That's called a ganglion in the peripheral nervous system, and that's called a nucleus in the central nervous system. So kind of refer to the picture on the previous slide where all the neurons are lined up together. You can see that area where the cell bodies come together. It's going to be thicker than the axon area. So there's your nucleus or ganglion, depending if you're in the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system.